Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into prompt engineering, and you've given us a ton of sources on this. We have GitHub repos, articles from leading AI experts. One name that jumps out is Ilya Sutskever.
Oh,
So clearly, you want to know how to actually do this stuff,
right.
not just what it is.
hmm
Um, One source even gets into this tree of thought framework, which honestly sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
But apparently, it helps AI solve these super complex problems.
that's right.
So to unpack all of this, we've got our expert here ready to turn, information overload into some actual knowledge that you can use.
Well, and what I think is so fascinating about this whole topic is just how fast the landscape of AI is changing. It's not even enough to just be able to code anymore. You need to know how to talk to these models, how to guide their thinking.
Oh, interesting.
And that's really where prompt engineering comes in.
So let's start there. I mean, for someone who's hearing about this for the first time, what exactly is prompt engineering and why is it suddenly so important?
Okay, so imagine you're trying to get an AI to do something for you,
Okay.
like maybe summarize a research paper or write a piece of code, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The prompt is basically your instruction set,
Yeah.
your way of communicating with the AI to get what you want, to achieve a specific goal. And the difference between a good prompt and a bad one is the difference between getting exactly what you want and ending up with something totally off base.
Okay, so it's like giving someone directions. If you're too vague, they might end up lost.
Uh-huh.
But in this case, you're giving directions to a super intelligent computer.
Exactly.
Okay.
And actually, one of your sources has some great tips from Ilya Sutskever on this, who,
Yeah.
he's one of the leading figures in the AI world.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about this idea of the model's theory of mind, which basically means how does the AI interpret things? And it's not always the same way that a human would.
That's interesting. So it's not just about being clear. It's about being clear in a way that the AI will understand.
Right.
What does that even look like in practice?
Well, take this example from your source about testing prompts with realistic, imperfect user input.
Okay.
Imagine you're building a chatbot. Real users are going to make typos, they're going to use slang.
Oh, for sure.
Their grammar may not be perfect. If your prompts only work with perfectly formed sentences,
Yeah.
your chatbot's going to be pretty useless in the real world.
Right. So you're not just crafting this perfect instruction. You're thinking about all the messy ways that a human might actually interact with it.
Right.
This is already way deeper than I thought.
And it gets even deeper. Your sources go beyond those basic tips into things like using analogies to explain new concepts to the AI,
Yeah.
crafting prompts that explore hypothetical scenarios.
Okay.
They even touch on some of the ethical considerations.
Hold on. Ethical considerations. So it's not just about how to write the prompt. It's about what you're asking the AI to do and the consequences of that.
Right.
That's pretty intense.
It is, yeah, and we'll definitely delve into those a bit later. But one thing that really stood out to me from your sources was that they actually include code examples.
Oh, okay.
This isn't just theoretical. You get to see how these prompts are used to create real-world applications.
Okay. Yeah, let's see the rubber meet the road here. What kind of example were we talking about?
So one example shows how to generate code for the bubble sort algorithm. And the prompt is broken down into 3 parts. First, you define the task.
Okay.
Then you name the specific algorithm you want. And then you actually tell the AI to include comments in the code that it generates.
So you're not just saying write code.
Yeah.
You're giving it very specific instructions,
Right.
parameters.
Exactly.
It's almost like you're building a fence to keep the AI on track.
That's a great way to put it. And by being so specific, you ensure that the AI understands exactly what you want and delivers exactly what you need. And that level of control is just becoming more and more essential as these AI models become more powerful.
Okay, now this tree of thought framework that you mentioned earlier, does that tie into this level of control? It still sounds a bit mystical to me.
It does. The tree of thought is essentially a way to break down really complex problems into these smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
It's kind of like giving the AI a roadmap to follow.
Yeah.
One of your sources uses this really great example of creating a schedule for students who are attending workshops that have all these overlapping times.
Okay, yeah, I can relate to that.
No.
Scheduling can be a total nightmare.
Right.
How does the tree of thought actually help with that?
So instead of just throwing this whole mess at the AI,
Okay.
you actually guide it through a thought process.
Oh, wow.
You start by asking it to propose different scheduling strategies. Then you have it evaluate the pros and cons of each strategy. And finally, you ask it to actually choose the optimal one and then generate the schedule.
So it's like you're teaching the AI to think like a human planner, considering different options, weighing the trade-offs, and then making a decision.
Exactly.
Wow.
And what's really powerful about this framework is that it can be applied to a wide range of problems. Not just scheduling, it's really about structuring the AI's thought process to achieve better outcomes. Welcome back to our deep dive on prompt engineering. Now, before we move on, I do want to say that this tree of thought concept, it's not just for like these super complex problems.
Okay.
You can actually use it to guide the AI's thinking, even for like simpler tasks.
Oh, that's interesting. So I was thinking it was only for these like massive multi-step problems.
Mhm.
So how would you use it for something more, I don't know, straightforward?
Let's say you're asking the AI to like summarize a news article, right?
Okay.
Instead of just saying summarize this, you could break it down. First, have it identify the key topics, then ask it to extract the most important facts for each topic, and then finally tell it to combine all those facts and state like a concise summary.
Okay. So even with a simple task like summarization,
Yeah.
you're still giving the AI like, a clear structure, a way to approach it.
Strategically.
It's like you're saying, don't just wing it, think it through.
Exactly. And the more you can structure that thinking, the better results you're going to get.
Okay.
And speaking of getting better results, one of your sources has a whole section on like best practices.
Mhm.
For crafting these effective prompts, it's almost like a cheat sheet.
Oh, okay. I love cheat sheets. Lay it on me. What are like the top 3 things I need to know?
Okay, so number 1, always start your prompt with an action verb,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Summarize, analyze, translate, things like that. This tells the AI exactly what you want it to do. There's no ambiguity.
Got it. So it's like giving someone a command.
Right.
Go to the store, make me a sandwich.
Exactly. Tip number 2 is to be as specific as possible when you're providing context.
Okay.
Don't just say, write a poem. Say, write a sonnet about the feeling of nostalgia for a childhood home.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The more context you give the AI, the better it can understand what you want.
Right. So don't be afraid to get detailed. Paint a picture for the AI.
Yeah.
Okay. What's number 3?
Okay, number 3 is to set clear constraints for the output.
Okay.
Specify the length. Specify the format. Tell it how many items you want. Don't leave it open-ended. For example, write a list of 5 bullet points that outline the key benefits of prompt engineering.
Got it. Okay. So it's about setting those boundaries, making sure that the AI doesn't just like go off on some tangent
Yeah.
or produce something that's, completely unusable.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think you're starting to see here that prompt engineering is as much about restraint as it is about
Oh,
creativity.
that's a really good point. Yeah. It's about guiding the AI's power, not just like unleashing it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one technique that can really help with this is providing examples in your prompts.
Examples like showing the AI what I'm looking for.
Exactly. So let's say you want the AI to, I don't know, write in a specific style.
Right.
Instead of just describing that style, you could actually give it like a couple of sentences written in that style
Yeah.
and say, this is what I'm looking for.
So it's like giving it a model to follow,
Right.
a template for success. It's almost like teaching by example instead of just explaining things abstractly.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And actually, your sources have this really interesting example
Okay.
that shows the power of this. And it's about rewriting a paragraph for like a 5th grade reading level.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. They gave the AI a sample sentence, right?
Yeah.
Written at a 5th grade level and then said, okay, now rewrite this whole paragraph in a similar style.
Exactly. And the results were amazing. The AI was actually able to simplify the language.
Wow.
Simplify the sentence structure, but it still kept the core meaning.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like they gave the AI this like crash course in writing for a specific audience.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this. You can fine-tune the AI's output in ways that were, previously unimaginable.
You mentioned earlier that some of the source material gets into like the ethical considerations of all of this.
Mhm.
And I'm really curious to hear more about that because it seems like there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong if we're not, really careful.
Yeah, there is. And while your sources do touch on it, they don't go super deep.
Okay.
But one thing they do mention is that the way we phrase our prompts can unintentionally like introduce biases into the AI's output.
So if I'm not careful, my own biases can end up reflected in the things that the AI is creating. That's a bit unsettling.
Yeah, it is something to be aware of. So for example, if you're asking the AI to like write a story about a scientist,
Yeah.
and your prompt subtly implies that, scientists are always male,
Right.
the AI might end up generating a story that just reinforces that stereotype.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about being clear and specific. It's about being really mindful like the potential impact of our words.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways here. Prompt engineering, it's not just a technical skill, it's also a responsibility. We have to think carefully about those prompts
Yeah.
and the potential consequences.
That's a really powerful point. It's like we're not just shaping the AI's output, we're, shaping the future.
Exactly. And actually, that kind of brings us back to that tree of thought framework we were talking about.
Yeah. I got so caught up in the ethics discussion, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
So how does that fit into all of this?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
The more complex the problem is,
Mm,
the more potential there is for things to go wrong.
right.
And when the stakes are really high,
Yeah.
you need a way to guide the AI's thinking carefully, deliberately.
Oh.
So the tree of thought is kind of like a safety net. It's a way to ensure that the AI is considering, all the angles, making decisions that are actually aligned with our values. That's a great way to put it. It's about giving the AI that framework for ethical decision making, a way to navigate these complex problems responsibly.
I'm starting to see how powerful this is. It's not just about, like, you know, efficiency. It's about ensuring that AI is being used for good.
Exactly. And you know what? One of your sources actually uses this framework to explore some really deep philosophical questions
Ooh.
about the nature of intelligence itself.
Philosophical questions. Now, that's intriguing. I didn't realize we could even get that deep with AI.
Yeah.
What kind of questions are we talking about here?
Well, for example, one of the questions they explore is sensory grounding actually necessary for general intelligence?
Whoa. Okay.
This is a question that, philosophers have been debating for centuries.
Right.
And now we're using AI to try to help us find answers.
Wow. So they're using the tree of thought to guide the AI through, like, this complex philosophical inquiry.
Exactly. And the insights they're getting are pretty amazing. It's like the AI is helping us to see these really age-old questions in a whole new light.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I feel like we've gone, deep down the rabbit hole with prompt engineering here. We started with basic tips, and now we're, talking about AI and philosophy.
I know, right?
But, one thing that your sources keep emphasizing is the need to actually look at the data that you're feeding the AI and then really study those outputs that it generates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm guessing this goes beyond just, checking if the output is good or bad.
Oh, for sure. It's really about becoming like a detective almost.
Okay.
Understanding the nuances of how the AI actually arrived at a particular result. Think about it this way. If you were teaching someone to bake a cake
Okay.
and they kept burning it,
Right.
you wouldn't just keep giving them the same instructions. You'd try to figure out where they're going wrong in the process.
So it's like being a coach, not just an instructor. You're analyzing the AI's performance to help it improve.
Exactly. And by really digging into that data and the outputs, you can start to see patterns, you can identify potential biases, and then you can actually refine your prompts to get even better results.
So it's like you're saying that prompt engineering is like this ongoing conversation with the AI, not just this one-way street. You learn from its responses and adapt your approach.
Exactly, yeah.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. I'm curious, where do you see this field going in the future?
Well, I think what's so exciting is that the future of prompt engineering is really tied to the future of AI itself, which, feels almost limitless at this point.
Right.
But one trend I think we'll see is this move towards making prompt engineering more accessible to everyone.
So it won't just be for the coders, the AI specialists anymore.
Exactly. Imagine user-friendly tools and platforms that allow anyone, regardless of their technical background, to be able to communicate effectively with these AI models. It's really about democratizing access to this incredibly powerful technology.
That's amazing. What else do you see happening in the future?
Well, I also think we'll start to see a shift towards AI models that are specifically designed to be guided by these prompts.
Okay.
So instead of using these general purpose models, we'll have models that are like experts in specific fields.
Okay, so instead of having one AI that's trying to be like a jack of all trades,
Right.
we might have one that's amazing at writing marketing copy and another one that's a whiz at generating code for a specific type of app.
Exactly. And you'll be able to communicate with these specialized AIs using natural language, crafting prompts that are tailored to their expertise. It's like having a team of AI specialists at your fingertips.
This has been such a fantastic journey into the world of prompt engineering. I want to thank you for being such a brilliant guide. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap things up?
I think my biggest piece of advice would be this. Don't be afraid to experiment. The world of AI is vast. It's constantly changing. And the best way to really learn this stuff is to just Jump in and get your hands dirty. Try new things, iterate on your prompts, and just see what amazing things you can create.
That's great advice. And to all our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has empowered you to go out and explore the incredible potential of prompt engineering. It's a field that's only just beginning to blossom, and who knows what amazing discoveries await us just around the corner. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.